China warned recently that the U.S. had overstepped its boundaries with the newly announced $80 million worth of support for Taiwan, as saying there will be lethal consequences. The state-run communist newspaper, The Global Times, criticized the U.S. and the foreign military financing program usually used for sovereign states. The op-ed claimed the increased number and intensity of U.S. intervention methods concerning Taiwan was brewing a lethal storm that could not be ignored. Quote, China's strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition are obvious, but China's response to the continuous provocations by the U.S. on the Taiwan question will not be limited to mere statements. Wang Wenbin, China's foreign ministry spokesperson, claimed the decision to provide weapons to Taiwan violated the One China principle. Thousands of people have been trapped in the Nevada desert for days after late summer storms turned the roads into mud, making them impassable. As many as 80,000 people attended an annual festival known as Burning Man, which began on August 27th. The annual large-scale desert campout, as described by organizers, focuses on community, art, and self-expression. For the past 20 years, a Freedom Lounge ministry led by Cindy McGill has attended the event to minister to those in attendance and worship. A group is in the midst of all that is still going on there right now. Let's keep everyone in prayer. Those in attendance reportedly have limited supplies and no working bathrooms. So far, one death has been reported. The roads are expected to improve enough today to allow participants to head home. Mike?
Fjord, what Joe Biden needs to do to prevent an impeachment inquiry from taking place is pretty simple, but instead the White House is reportedly gearing up for battle by establishing a war room. That's according to George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley. NBC News is reporting the White House has opted to assemble a war room to combat a potential impeachment inquiry by hiring attorneys, legislative aides, and communications staffers. They are even reportedly studying the 1998 Republican impeachment of Bill Clinton. Turley says what they need to do is not obstruct a House investigation.
They could easily avoid an impeachment inquiry by simply asking the National Archives to release this information, for the president to release information from his own financial accounts, and that would really forestall the need to have an inquiry. It's only because they have been stonewalling that Congress has very little choice, in my view, but to move forward.
We now know that the National Archives admitted to having over 5,400 emails where then Vice President Joe Biden used a pseudonym in correspondence, including with his son Hunter. The White House has blocked release of the documents, claiming executive privilege. After Hawaii's Democrat Governor Josh Green said the number of individuals unaccounted for after the Maui fire would fall into the double digits, number of missing stands at 385. With recovery efforts still underway, Breitbart News is reporting the Maui Police Department said 245 people on the missing persons list were found, but the number of missing remains just under 400, far from the double digits Governor Green forecast last Thursday.
They basically finished the search with the exception of a little bit of the water area. So we're heartsick, but we're still seeing the number of unaccounted for individuals drop. We're going to get a big update tomorrow, and pending that update, we think the number has dropped down into the double digits. So thank God.
Yeah, that was last Thursday. Now, according to the Maui County website, as of Saturday, the number of fatalities stands at 115. House Oversight and Accountability Committee Chair James Comer announced Tuesday that they will investigate the federal government's response to the Maui fires. Breitbart News reports a resident trying to raise money for the destroyed town of Lahaina told the outlet search crews allegedly found more than 450 bodies, with a large number of them being children. Tim.
Mike, Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is challenging Joe Biden Friday to a debate so the president can prove that he has the mental and physical fitness for the office. Kennedy wrote on social media, President Biden could put to rest any concerns about his fitness for office by engaging me in a vigorous, issues-oriented debate. Let's end the speculation and let the voters see for themselves, end quote. Kennedy's challenge comes amid swirling questions about Biden's mental and physical ability to serve another term. Concerns are not just from Republican opposition, but have begun to rise from a small number of Democrats and journalists. Kennedy still trails Biden in the polls, but his campaign is gaining traction. The Democrat National Committee has refused to schedule debates between Biden and Kennedy in an effort to steer Biden toward the party nomination, which is common for incumbents in either party. Greg?
Right now, let's talk with constitutional attorney, Victory News contributor Chris Ann Hall. Chris Ann, thank you for joining us on Labor Day.
Oh, thank you so much.
RFK Jr. says, let's debate and prove you're fit for office as an incumbent. Is there any chance Joe Biden will take that challenge?
Well, you know, incumbents do debates all the time, but there's really only two reasons why an incumbent would not do a debate. Number one, they don't feel like their opponent is a credible threat. Or number two, they're not actually serious about winning the office. I think for Joe Biden, number two is the option, because I still hold firm that Joe Biden is not going to be the Democrat candidate for the 2024 election. So I don't see him engaging in any kind of debate.
You have been consistent with that, and time will tell. We'll watch and see.
Time will tell.
Yes, it will. Instead of building a war room team to combat impeachment, couldn't Joe Biden prevent an impeachment inquiry by not obstructing the House investigation?
Well, absolutely. But you see, Joe Biden is obstructing on purpose because they're not going to let those documents go. And he's not going to let the documents go regardless, even if there is an impeachment inquiry, because he doesn't take the impeachment inquiry actually as a credible threat. Number one, it is too late in the game for an impeachment inquiry to go to the conviction in Senate where some kind of consequence would really happen. Or number two, there's no reason for him to turn those documents over because he's not running for president in 2024. That's what I'm believing. And his time in office is over soon enough. He won't have to turn those documents over.
Okay. Let's switch gears here. Taiwan receives $80 million in military aid from the United States, and now China says there could be, this is the troubling phrase, lethal consequences. Is this saber rattling, or are we drawing closer to a conflict in Asia with the Chinese Communist Party?
You know, the Chinese government has a very, very long history. And if we look at that history, I don't think that there is any way we could credibly say that the Chinese government is in the habit of making idle threats. Now, they make statements to find out what their opposition holds as principle. But I do not believe anything in history allows us to believe that the Chinese just simply say things without the ability to hold them up.
Yeah, always believe them. Joe Biden was asked point blank about his failure to visit East Palestine, Ohio, and the victims of the toxic chemical spill. Here's his answer.
Well, I haven't had the occasion to go to East Palestine. There's a lot going on here, and I just haven't been able to break. I was thinking whether I'd go to East Palestine this week, but I then was reminded I've got to go literally around the world.
Now, he spent 40% of his presidency on vacation, Chris Ann. Does that answer satisfy your several months of waiting for the people in Ohio?
You know, I'm going to be totally honest here. The federal government has been nothing but a series of corruptions and incompetencies. So I'm not really concerned about what Joe Biden or the federal government says about Palestine, Ohio. I'm actually more concerned about what the governor says and the investigations of the state regarding this situation. Because remember, as a state problem, it is a state issue, not a federal one.
Okay.